You have goals. You know what you need to accomplish. But instead of making progress, you sit there, glued to the spot. Society has a very quick diagnosis for this state. People call it a lack of discipline. They call it laziness. So you try standard motivational advice. You apply brute willpower to force yourself into motion, only to find that it fails to cure the gridlock. This failure occurs because your internal engine is generating plenty of power, but the parking brake is fully engaged. We can map out how this parking brake functions using illustration 05. Look at the phrasing at the bottom. The section underlined in yellow defines the symptom, the sheer inability to do anything. The root cause is isolated right next to it. We are bound. Understanding this structural reality is the only way to initiate forward momentum. You're being actively restrained. To understand exactly how we are restrained, we can use the labels from the manuscript to run a diagnostic check across 3 distinct zones. Zone 1 is the brain. Notice the heavy chains wrapping tightly across the top of the character's head, representing severe cognitive lockdown. These are the chains of overthinking, analysis paralysis, and rigid limiting beliefs. Your thoughts lock up, spinning their wheels at a high speed but failing to chart any clear path outward. Occurs down in the emotional center, the inner heart. Here, the chains are forged from different materials. Fear of failure, persistent anxiety, past trauma, or deep emotional exhaustion create a secondary set of heavy bindings. Operating in the background, these emotional bindings generate immense internal friction, visualized here by the jagged black lines radiating off the character's body. A locked mind combined with an overwhelmed heart creates a closed loop. The internal friction burns up all of your conceptual energy, guaranteeing that none of it reaches the physical world. When that mental and emotional gridlock reaches critical mass, the result is a total physical standstill. This is zone 3, the feet. These are the behavioral chains wrapping firmly around the legs to enforce literal inaction. Because the mind is clouded and the heart is overwhelmed, the biological signal required to take a single step never reaches your feet. You remain firmly anchored. Enduring this 3-point restriction requires immense effort. Look closely at the character's face, the heavy sweat drop and the distressed expression. This state of doing nothing is an intense strain on your biology. Your systems spend all day fighting their own internal restraints, making this paralysis far more exhausting than actual rest. Escaping this paralysis requires us to step away from the diagnosis and execute a highly targeted process. First, you must completely discard the idea that you are lazy. The evidence proves that you are actively restricted by heavy, compounding chains. Beating yourself up for standing still is dangerous. Punishing yourself with self-blame only pulls your existing mental and emotional chains tighter, and you cannot use sheer willpower against structural restraints. You can't run a marathon tied to a post. The harder you push forward, the harder the anchor snaps you back. To escape, you must stop fighting the whole system at once. You have to evaluate the gridlock and identify which single chain, the mind, the heart, or the feet, is wrapped the tightest right now. By targeting and breaking just that one specific link, you shatter the closed loop of paralysis. The parking brake releases, and forward momentum becomes entirely possible.